Hello everyone. I'd like to talk about VMware's product called vSphere Hypervisor. It's a virtualization server that they have that you can boot up onto a machine. It has to be a 64-bit processor in it, which is at least a minimum of a dual core. With the new version, the 5.1, seems that it's pretty much running on just about any machine now. And I remember before it was requiring a server network card and a few other things when I had tried it on version 5 and one just before that. And I had various difficulties on that. But now that it is actually a newer upgrade on it, it is working quite well. And I wanted to demonstrate that to you today here as well. So, first things first, you'll want to go to the website. And the website's going to be www.vmware.com. And what you want to do is you want to go to the product page on here, or products, sorry. And then if you look all the way over here, it has under free products, they have vSphere Hypervisor. This is a direct competitor to the Microsoft products, which is their Hyper-V. I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate the vSphere Hypervisor today, and later on this week I'll make another tutorial on doing it Hyper-V in Microsoft on 2008 Release 2 server as well. Alright, so what you want to do is you want to go in there, and if you don't have an account already, you're going to download the hypervisor, and it actually gives you a license. It's free virtualization software. I mean, this is awesome. I have installed this on a few clone PCs here over the last 48 hours, and I've been definitely impressed with the results of how quick the virtualization works with the servers. Everything is very unique experience. So, with that being said, I've already downloaded my license, and I've actually downloaded the hypervisor right here. 5.1 is the one I'm doing the demonstration on, and I already have my license key. So, and let's go ahead and get that installed. Let's start it up now. I'm using Workstation 8, a little bit older, but it'll work the same with VMware's Workstation or Player 9. You can also go back to the site there and you can download the 9 under products, and you can download their player right here to be able to simulate this too. If you guys take a look at this, this is their free version of the VMware player, which is Workstation 9 for non-commercial use. Okay, but the particular one that I have, I purchased mine. So let's go ahead and go back here. Alright, let's go ahead and create a new virtual machine. Go to New, Virtual Machine, and click Next on that. And I am definitely going to be using the ESXi 5.0, which is version 5 of vSphere. So click Next on it. Generally, what I like to do is go and create or install the operating system later, but on this time I'm going to go ahead and do actually highlight the ISO and let it detect it. So I'm going to highlight it here. I put mine on the desktop. Go ahead and select it, and I'm going to go ahead and click Next on it, and it did detect what it was. It says it's ESXi, and click Next on it as well. And I'm going to go ahead and add a second processor. I have a quad core on this particular one I'm using, so I'm going to go ahead and select 4 on it. But if you had a dual, it would be a minimum of 2 selections, but I'm going to go ahead and select the 4 on here. Click Next on it. I'll go ahead and leave it at 248 megs of RAM is fine. I actually could go up a little bit higher on this one, but since that's the default selection, I'm going to leave it there. Okay. Click Next on it. And I'm not going to change the network address translation yet. I've learned from experience that you want to save the VMware workstation. You want to go ahead and continue through the install or the setup first before you modify anything, which is always the best practice on workstation VMware player. So I'm going to select, and I'm going to leave it at a SCSI drive on this one. Click Next on it, and I do want to add enough space to be able to manipulate enough data, so I'm going to go ahead and add 140 gigs drive into it. I'm going to click on Store the virtual disk as a single file. Go ahead and click Next on that now as well, and I'll leave the drive as the default description that it came up there, and click Next again, and then Finish. And then before I start it, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change that network interface. Actually, it started up right on me right off the bat, so I'm going to kill it here. And what I want to do is I want to change this network card under the properties, under the virtualization properties. I want to change a couple of things in here. This is not a server that's running a sound card, but we can go ahead. Yeah, look, I noticed that it didn't even bother to even put it in there, but it did put a floppy drive in there. And let's see, everything else looks pretty good in here. I'm going to go ahead and check the use accelerated 3D graphics and see if we can get that to work in it. So check that box, and I'm also going to go back to the network adapter and let's change it to bridged. Okay, network adapter to bridged, and I'm going to go to the display and use accelerated 3D graphics on it too. So let's go ahead and click OK, and then I'm going to go ahead and install it. You guys are going to see the boot screen here. Alright, so let me move the mouse around in here and stop that clock. I saw an error there. Let me go back to that really quick. And I believe that it has to do with virtualization. I want to make sure I said that it was disabled. I want to go back and check that out and make sure. I'll highlight this. Let's go restart it again. Let's see what that error was. Oh, it's saying that it doesn't have it for the 64-bit. Well, that's fine. Let's just go ahead and install it. This is installing it in a workstation or VMware workstation anyway. So I've highlighted the SX or SE ESXi 5.1, which you see I have the standard installer. I'm going to go ahead and run it. And you guys can see the following boot screen coming up on here. As you guys can see that this is actually a Unix environment that it's booting to. I have been phenomenally impressed with how quick this server runs over the network. Even with small amounts of RAM in it, the computer is extremely fast. It is. You guys, everyone, you're going to have to try this out just to see how quick it actually is. And this does take a little while, so I may pause the video here for a moment. Come back to it. Alright. Click enter. Accept the agreements here. Go ahead and continue to let it run. Go ahead and OK that. That's alright. It says it's got a 140 gig drive in it. And enter to continue. And default is US, which is correct. Go ahead and put in my password here for the root account. This is what we're going to later use to log in with the vSphere client. So you guys want to keep that in mind. So apparently, you know what we can do is to check that. I can give it a shot and see if the BIOS that's inside a workstation can fix that. But you're going to need a processor that has at least a dual core or higher to run this server. So at least I'm gonna give it a shot here. We'll go back, let it finish its install. I'm gonna click enter to finish installing it, and then F11 to finish. And we can see that it's done here. So let's go ahead and click OK to let it reboot. It didn't take too dreadfully long to install. It does take a little bit for it to restart though, which is different. Oh, this would we need to stop this from booting up to the CD-ROM here. I'm going to power this off. Okay. And what I want to do is I'm going to go to the settings of this. And I want to remove that CD-ROM so that it's not connected. Click OK on that. I'm just going to go back to it. And I want to see if I can turn on virtualization in it. So what I'm going to do here, this is usually kind of a fun thing to try to get to go, but you got to start it up, you power it up, and you got to be ready to hit F2 when it comes up so you can get into the BIOS. There we go, I got into it. Let's see if there's some virtualization inside of this BIOS that comes with it. Anything in here to turn on virtualization in this one? May have to be inside of my main board, but I'm pretty sure that that's already been enabled. Nope, I don't see any virtualization inside of this. Nope, I don't see anything in here about virtualization. So, at least I wanted to try, so everything's good. Go ahead and save it and let it boot up to the... There it is. Almost done loading it up here. And we're almost here. Just about booted. Showing you guys actually how long it really does take to boot. This one's not really taking too long. Just gonna make sure if it looks like it's gonna take. Looks like I might just be done. I am done. Good. Alright, no need to pause it. You notice here this has the IP address. Now it is DHCP driven if you notice there. My IP address internally here is the 192.168.1.55. So what we need to do is we need to see, since I turned that to bridge, we need to take a look at that on the web. So I'm going to go ahead and punch that IP address in here. Whoops. I have it in there already, but I'll go ahead and manually type it in entirely. So it's 192.168.1.55. And it's giving me a little bit that it can't find the site. This is okay. Click continue to go ahead and view this website anyways, and look, it brought me to the page. Just make sure you guys all notice here, you see this up here at top, that's the IP address, and it brings me to this page. So the server is officially up and running. Now I just need to download the vSphere client. You need to make sure, if you, I believe, yep, there it goes right there. Just go to right click on it, go to save as, and I would just go ahead and save this to my desktop. Go ahead and download this. Now I've actually already put my vSphere client already on there. And if you notice, let me minimize this. I've actually made it here on the desktop. Here's my vSphere client. There's really nothing to this. It's just going through and accepting all the defaults to install this software. And it depends on if not every bit of software that's required to make it work is on the machine. It may download something. But let's take a look at this. This is my server's IP is the 55. And what I want to log in with is the root account. So And I also gave it a password when I was installing it, as you guys will see in the tutorial. Log into it here, and it's going to complain about this certificate. If you guys want to fix this, is all you have to do is check install this certificate, view the certificate, click on install it to install the certificate and accept the defaults, and then it's going to tell you it installed it, no problem, and then you don't have to worry about this. Now that I'm going to click ignore, that'll be probably the last time I get to see it again. So waiting here momentarily to bring this up. And the evaluation here that's inside of that, not so important right at the moment. But however, it is important if you're going to mess with this. Well, excuse my expression, mess with this. I mean that, for lack of a better word, if you're going to continue to use this for a while, which is perfectly okay because it is free software, you're going to need to go to the configuration tab in here to set the license up, and you're going to need to go to license features, and you need to go ahead and enable all of the different things. Now this has all the full initialization, a whole bunch of other things and products in there, and you should evaluate it. I do grant you, but if you want to keep this going, you could just evaluate it for the 60 days and then pop the license in there. But in this case, I'm just going to put it in there just from the start. Show you guys how to do that. Click edit, and then go to assign license. Paste it in there. There we go. Now it's all set up. So I'm going to make sure that you're probably going to notice I'm going to have this grayed out when you guys are watching the video, so you won't get to see it. Now your second thing is that you want to bring an OS in there. Now I've seen a few people make this to where that the client was bringing in the OS and they were using the CD on your client or on your workstation. That wasn't too successful for me, so what I like doing is go to the storage tab, and you notice it has this data store right off the bat. I want you to highlight it after you go to storage, right click on it, and you go to browse data store. And what you want to do is we want to load our OSs in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a folder right now that says ISOs, or just ISO, that's fine. And I'm going to highlight that folder, and I'm going to go ahead and click on upload files to this data store. So I'm going to upload an ISO, so upload a file. And what I'm going to do from there is I'm going to find the folder I have on my desktop that has all those in it. Actually copied mine into a desktop folders, and then ISOs. And then for example, let's go ahead and install Windows 7 so you can just see how it installs on there. This is the enterprise version of it, by the way. I'll go ahead and upload that into the vSphere server. Takes a few seconds, not too dreadfully long. Alright, now it uploaded the ISO in there so that it's in the data store there, so we can access it when we create a virtual box now. So now we're going to highlight the IP address up here inside of the hyper or this vSphere client. Right click on it, and again right click new virtual machine, and I'll just do the typical click next on it, and I'll call, well, actually, you know what, I want to do custom. So, and the reason why is I want to do custom is I want it to be able to detect the CD-ROM as it starts up, but I'm going to call this Windows 7 ENT. Click next, and the data store is in there. Click next again. Leave it as virtual machine 8 is fine. And it is Windows 7 is what it is. Windows 7 32-bit. Click next again. I'm not going to touch any of the cores. Click next. And I'll leave it 1 GB RAM. Default's fine. Click next. Network card is all defaulted as well. And then click next. And I'll leave it as create a virtual disk. 24 gigs is fine. Just click next on it again. I will select an IDE drive for this one. And then click next. And then finish. And it is making it now. And there it made that virtual box. Let's go ahead and edit some settings on it, just so you guys can see it here. I'm going to remove that floppy. I'm going to go ahead and remove, I don't think it put a sound card in here. I don't see it anywhere in here, so that's good. Show all devices. Nope, I don't see a sound card in here, so I'm going to click OK on it. And go ahead and power it up, and you should see that it's installing the first virtual box inside of vSphere. Now what you need to do is either you right click on this and you go to open console, or you go to console here in the window here. And you'll see that it's booting up. Oh, there was one thing I forgot to tell you. The reason why it's booting to that network card is you have to select that. There's a little box in there. I have to power this down. You have to select the little box under the settings when you load it up from a CD-ROM that it turns on when it powers up. So right click on, actually go to get started tab on it, go to edit the virtual machine settings, and when I highlight the CD-ROM I need, there's two things I need to do actually. Highlight the CD-ROM, and remember on the data store where we uploaded it, I want to go to browse, data store, ISO, and then here's my image right here. And I'm going to check this little box right here that says connect on power on. Remember, here's from my data store, and here's connect at power on. And once I click on this, let me click on the console tab here, and I'm going to click the play button here, or start button, and it should start loading Windows 7 the moment it boots up here, which it is doing. As you guys can all see, it is loading up Windows 7 into the vSphere hypervisor. So that's a brief tutorial. I'll go a little bit more in depth as we set up Active Directory for Windows 2008 Release 2, and we'll use the permissions from the Active Directory domain in the next tutorial. Alright, so I will wait here just for the screen to come up. As you can see, the Microsoft screen is coming up, and it's running and booting up. And in the next tutorial, I'll also go into details on how to set up permissions and how to add users. If you don't want to run it in Active Directory, I'll show how to add those into it as well. So please keep your comments coming, and let me know if there's anything else that I can do, any other tutorials I can set up. So thank you again for joining us, and you notice this booted up to Windows 7. So thank you very much, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye now.